Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Goffstown Planning Board meeting for January 26, 2023. We normally begin with introductions, and we'll start with Joanne.
Joanne Duffy, Planning and Economic Development Director.
Philip DeVanzer.
Passion Maven.
Mark Lemay, Select Board Rep, filling in for Collis Adams.
Scott Ozana, Town Engineer.
Tim Redmond.
Kimberly Peace.
Barbara Griffin.
Jim Raymond.
David Pierce, I'm an alternate.
Thank you, David. You'll be voting this evening. Next item on our correspondence and action items is the approval or correction of the January 12th minutes.
You're recommending to wait on those?
Yeah, if I could speak.
Okay, go ahead, please.
So the minutes that you have in front of you need some corrections to the conditions of approval for the Hawk application.
Okay.
And because I just received some technical changes this afternoon, I would like to come back for the 9th. I'll put them in your packet. You'll have them ahead of time. Do a red line version, and this way you can see what those changes are from what's here, and then you can decide whether to approve.
Okay,
That's okay.
whatever you recommend. So we will delay the minutes until the next meeting in February.
Thank you for being careful with those conditions, because that was important to get that improved, but it's important to get those right.
This is a challenging application
Yeah.
to describe.
Okay. We have a copy of our zoning amendment articles that are in front of us all. We're not going to discuss them, or are we going to discuss them, Joanne?
Those are just the final copy for you.
They're done.
And we have a copy of a New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services application for an air curtain burner to be located at a transfer station. Joanne, do you want to handle that, or shall I ask the town engineer, or what's the...
I think Scott would know more about that.
This was news to me that this is going to be
Oh,
here
really?
tonight, but
Sorry.
Yeah, just an FYI.
First of all, does everybody
Yes.
know what an air curtain burner is?
What's that, the
For those of you who
transfer
don't, an air curtain burner is a machine that pumps air into a fire so that it burns basically smoke-free. And that way they don't have to, pay the grinder anymore, Scott?
yes.
Yeah, but it is a machine that creates smoke-free fire in a brush burning application. Go ahead.
So, like I said, this is the first I'm hearing of this. This was the Adams permit, so I'm not even sure.
It's just an FYI for us,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, we
Basically,
don't have
that's
to
what
do
it is.
anything.
Here's
with
a
it.
hearing or something if anyone's
There's
interested.
a public comment period.
Right.
Yeah.
Draft permit, engineering summary.
Yeah, so it's really not, doesn't do with the planning board. We're just being notified as a town department?
Correct.
Okay, so let's move on to the next item.
I'm sorry, but
Nice job, Scott.
aware of it.
I will note, if you read
Now
thoroughly
you're
the
the party.
CIP reports that came in, that was thoroughly described, but I won't go forward with them.
Well, we voted on it last year, right? Wasn't this
It's
one,
been
right?
sitting in the
Yeah.
yard for quite some time now.
Last year.
Okay, so let's move on to that.
So,
Joanne?
under upcoming meetings, I have a question
Go
for
ahead.
you. So, January 26th is today, so just ignore that one. February 9th is our next meeting, and unless something from this evening gets continued, which it may, we have only a conceptual. So it was suggested to me that the conceptual, if we have nothing from tonight, that the conceptual be moved down to the 23rd. But we should probably wait and see at the end of the meeting before we decide on that one.
Mr. Chair, I will note that's an exhausting week because it's school and town meeting, so
The
It
ninth,
is, yeah.
I think it's pretty much-
To
I'd say it's a-
continue that meeting wouldn't be a bad idea.
much as I love you all, 3 town
Yeah,
meetings.
that's
and
a lot.
I would say that it's a given at this point that anything that gets continued is going to the 23rd.
Okay, so
So at this point, we will, unless you, is it too late for any new applications? Have they, is it?
no, it's, that period is
Tomorrow.
closed. No, it's already closed for
Oh,
the
it did?
9th.
Okay.
23rd is, February 3rd is the deadline for the 23rd.
So in light of the school moderator's comments regarding the busy week with everything going on, I would say that we will not have a meeting on February 9th at this time.
Thank you.
And we'll move anything from tonight's meeting that may be continued would be moved until February 23rd.
And if anybody's curious about the busy week, February 8th is the school deliberative session, February, wait, do I have that right? 7th is the town deliberative session.
School first.
School is first.
School is Monday and town is
town
Tuesday. Yes, please
And then
attend.
the snow dates are Wednesday and
And
Thursday.
there are
so
people
it's-
from this board that work at one or both of those events, so enough is enough.
Okay, so we'll have, notify
Mr.
the
Chair.
Kenny Road people. And if you continue anything from this evening, it will go to the
23rd.
23rd. Thank you.
Okay, the first application, we have no old business, is that correct, Joanne, as I'm reading on the
That's
agenda?
correct.
Okay, so the first application is new business. Map 42, lot 60. I will let you run the application for the board in public.
So James McKinn Jr. and Nancy Nichols are here for an application for map 42, lot 60, which is located at 29 McFarland Road. And they are here for relief of the outer 50 feet of the 100-foot wetland surface water district. They're planning to build a 22 by 28 garage with a 10 by 15 feet breezeway and a stair addition, which would connect to the lower main living floor. And they are needing a conditional use permit from this, I'm sorry, not a conditional use, relief of the outer 50 feet because of the encroachment into that buffer. This property is on Mountain Base Pond, which is the surface water in question. They did receive a variance from the ZBA on December 6th to allow an increase to the building coverage up to 12% rather than the maximum allowed, which is 10.
Is the application complete?
The application is complete and there is no regional impact.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the application and find there's no regional impact.
I'll second that.
Motion's been made to find the application complete, ready to review with no regional impact. There are no waivers requested, Joanne, is that part of this?
There are no waivers. There is a functions and values report, which is included in your packet.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, motion passes.
I have one question.
How about the motion?
No.
Well, then go ahead.
Conservation Commission, under the comments, it says that they're meeting on 125. Comments will be provided at the 126 meeting.
So last night, because of the snow, they canceled their meeting. They didn't have a quorum. So they've scheduled an additional meeting for February 2nd. Is it the 2nd? February 2nd, which will be an additional meeting for February. So because our zoning ordinance requires that we allow conservation to comment, I think this would be one of the applications that would be continued to the February 23rd meeting.
Can we, Mr. Chair, can we hear this presentation of it now, so we can get that out of the way and then do the
That-
comments?
Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
So Joanne, when we see a lot of these outer 50-foot requests, we see a lot of them lately, do we require that the applicant prove any type of hardship or did not seek any other place on their property to do these additions? Because we're seeing a lot of them, and there's no point in having the regulations if we constantly give out these reliefs, because we seem to be doing these a lot lately.
Well, it's
Please.
in,
Jim?
If you look
Go
at, go ahead, Joanne, I'll let you.
no, go ahead.
Yeah, the ordinance, when we did this, and there's some compromises involved. The inner 50 feet and the outer 50 feet, we agreed to treat separately, because if you suddenly had a 100-foot setback on a lot of properties, it changed people's expectations of what they could do. My house is an example. We're near two streams. And I think with the consultation with the Conservation Commission, and there's people who know more than I do, call us, included that the inner 50 feet is more critical to be protected, so we don't waive that unless some but we recognize that the outer 50 feet would be, some of us would have preferred to make it 100 feet, others not. So we agreed that that was too aggressive to say the outer 50 feet you couldn't build on. So you had to come in and show that there's no adverse impact. Kimberly can put in better words than I did. But it's not like a variance or a special exception. It's an allowed use if you show certain things. That's the function and values test. So it's not like granting a lot of variances to a zoning ordinance. It was anticipated. They were getting more than we anticipated. But Kimberly, is that a fair statement?
And I would also add that because we have added the fact that we have to have a review by wetland scientists of the functions and values, that there's a lot of avoidance and minimization that goes on before we see plans. And so people may look at a plan and decide to alter their plan to not impact these areas. So we actually don't know how many projects would have impacted that buffer if we didn't have this process in place. So I agree with you, Tim, we tend to grant them, but we're getting good information on these sites. I was reviewing this report, and it's pretty clear that the information that was requested is provided, and we're able to give a good evaluation of how this is going to affect the functions and values of the pond, and yeah.
Okay, thank you. Since we've already accepted this, does the board members have any questions for staff before we move on?
I guess I'd like, Joanne can do it, or the applicant, just describe in lay terms what's happening. Because it looks like they're doing quite a bit of work on the property, eliminating some non-pervious area, replacing it with others, so we get a picture. And one of the reasons I ask is, this area we know has a lot of problem houses. They have started as camps and have gradually expanded, and at some point they say, no, you can't continue to expand. But on the other hand, as Kimberly said, it's an improvement, and we may want to encourage it. I want to get a sense of where this fits in the spectrum of properties. Maybe Joanne can help us with the applicant.
We can certainly help you with that.
Okay.
I'm James McCam.
You're not ready to speak, sir. Hold on, please. This is just for the board. At this point, you'll be recognized in a moment. Thank you. So, are you asking Joanne for an answer, Jim?
Well, either the applicant or
When the applicant's time.
I'm queuing up the applicant to be prepared to tell us. That's what I'm really doing.
If you look through the report, these pages aren't numbered, but there's a report attached to the letter that was submitted. It's a 3-page letter from Mr. McKim, but then there's also the relief from the outer 50 feet application. And behind that, there are several photographs where you can really get a good look at the property and see what's there now, in particular, the retaining wall. I was laughing when Scott was telling that story earlier, because this retaining wall is made out of tires. So
Maybe they grow potatoes, too.
it's been there for a very long time.
There's a lot of tire retaining walls in this town around lakes.
You haven't seen one made out of junk cars yet. I've seen one of them. All right.
I've read all that, but I still like to get a summary.
Scott, do you have any comments as our town engineer?
None of mine were all that drastic. The one thing I think that I'm requesting that's a little out of the ordinary is, so they're proposing pervious pavers for the driveway, and since we're in the outer 50 here, I want to ensure that it's installed properly, so I think there should be some oversight during the construction to make sure, that they put in all the proper stone, that pavers are actually impervious, or pervious, I'm sorry. So that's the big one. There's no detail on the pervious pavers either. That's sort of one of the other comments I had.
All right, well, I'm sure they'll be addressed when
Yeah, they're
appropriate.
pretty simple comments.
Board members, everybody else all set for now? Okay, sir, could you please identify yourself for the record, sir?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is James McKim, and I'm here with my wife, Nancy Jacobs. We are trustees of the James T. McKim Irrevocable Trust, and happy to answer questions and go through a bit of a description of what we're trying to accomplish and the things we're trying to change. I will let my professional engineer wife do the talking because she's the brains behind all of this.
All right, so as described, this property is located on McFarland Road, between McFarland Road and Mountain Base Pond. also known-
Excuse me for 1 second. Joanne, do you have a plan for the board in case someone from home wants to see what's going on here, or are we going to skip that part of it?
We don't typically on these.
Well, we've
Yeah,
always
we
had a
don't
plan.
usually
For the relief
relief
ones. we
ones.
don't
That's all it is just, okay.
We have the large plans here.
That's fine. I just didn't want to skip a step and have someone complain they heard it but didn't see the plan.
Okay.
Excuse me for interrupting you, please
No
continue.
problem. All right, so Mountain Base Pond is also Uncanonic Lake. McFarland Road is a 1950s subdivision. The house was originally constructed in 1967 and lived in year-round by its original single owner. The house is set in a moderate slope between the gravel driveway with parking area and the shoreline. The landscape generally steps down to the pond with grade changes provided by several rubber tire retaining walls. There's also a rubber-backed carpet patio at the shoreline. We bought the property as renovation ready. What that really means to say is it can't be lived in. There's an awful lot of work to do to clean up the land and to renovate the building. We wish to make it pond and neighborhood friendly so that we can live there safely and peaceably into our old age. The existing topography and use of the existing shared driveway on the adjacent 15-foot right-of-way would be unchanged. We propose a new septic system, a new garage addition in front of the existing parking area, and stairway or breezeway addition to provide sheltered steps from the house main level to the higher garage and parking level for use by old people. This addition would also include a handicap shower. The proposed garage and stairway addition is 50 to 100 feet from the pond, which is why we're here, and behind the house as viewed from the pond. So we understand this expansion is exempted from the Wetland and Surface Water Conservation District ordinances. In this area, we propose to replace the rubber tire retaining wall with the garage foundation walls and a short interlocking concrete block wall. The impervious surface of the existing parking area would be replaced with a garage roof. The impervious and level surface of the existing driveway would be replaced with a porous paver driveway and a grass area. Our proposed improvements actually reduce the overall amount of impervious area on the property by 5.5%. Improvements would also include native blueberry bushes to stabilize the soil, where now there's a failed masonry wall at the shoreline. We would use vegetation rather than crushed stone for erosion control and improve the statics at the shoreline. And the wetland scientist report for this project, which you have in your packet, says that it will not compromise the functions, values, and conditions of the neighboring surface water resource. We wish to make the property more environmentally friendly, livable in our old age, while not imposing on others. And we look forward to any other comments you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant from board members? Barbara?
Good evening. I don't know whether you heard the engineer's comment about the porous pavers. So based on Mr. McKim's representation, I'm going to direct this to you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Did you understand what he was saying?
Oh, yeah.
And would it be possible for you to do that?
Sure. And there are different kinds of pervious pavers. We were thinking more of the plastic grid kind with a stone in it as opposed to
Okay.
any hard surface.
So those could just be included. Okay. Thank you.
Other board, Kimber?
On photo 7, there is what I think on the plan is shown as a 6-inch PVC pipe. Do you know where the water that goes through that pipe comes from?
The gutter.
The gutter?
Yeah, that's what.
So that's going to be gone.
Okay, I see that it's going to be removed.
Yeah.
Can we ask Scott what he would recommend for inspection or?
I think we would just, during construction of the driveway, I think we would just have either myself or Eric out there for a short period of time, make sure that the proper depths of stone are being placed and whatever the, so there's no detail on the plan, which is one thing I requested. If you don't provide a detail because you aren't sure what system you're going to use now, I guess we would just want the manufacturer's specifications prior to construction so we can review it.
That's no problem.
Which I think that's perfectly fine because I understand there's a lot of different choices out there. And, what you choose may not even be in stock these days, so you may have to choose something else.
Right. But you still want the plan marked up to show.
Bill?
One of the things that might look into is DES has some fact sheets on the different divisions of it, so you'd probably be going to water. But some of them have fact sheets on things as far as drainage and preferred or what they call the methods of reasonable methods of installation. They may have some guidelines on this that you might be able to get and just follow that and present that. It might be
I'm
helpful.
pretty sure DES does have one
Yeah.
for pervious pavers.
Right, so that's why it might be just a good idea to get that, and then we'd have something that would be common that everybody could refer to.
Yeah, one thing that the DES's sheet does specify is different manufacturers require different
Right.
gradations of stone and depth, so it's not a, it's not a one sheet fits all
Exactly.
type of thing.
Jim?
I just want to follow up on Scott, just to make sure, since we've labored so much on the conditions from last week's, I want to make sure. So you request that they notify you before the
Yeah.
driveway?
Correct.
And do you need a pre-construction meeting or?
I don't know whether we'd need a pre-con for this. That's just seems like an overuse of
No, I just
time.
want to create
Yeah.
a checklist for the applicant to
Yeah.
be clear, so they don't
I
miss
think
it.
we would just want to know what day that the driveway is going to be constructed, and so we can just get somebody from our office out there to make sure it's constructed.
Not that I put them in the same class, but we've had recent experience with somebody doing some
Yeah,
parking lot work without telling anybody.
yeah.
I don't want to
That
repeat
actually got worked on over the weekend too, and that wasn't,
Are you kidding me?
uh,
They didn't want to do it because the ground was too wet and they did it in the middle of a storm?
yes.
They didn't do it the prior week and they did it this past weekend?
Yes.
We'll come back to this later.
Yeah, we'll worry about
This has nothing to do with it.
I'm ready.
That's another comment.
Please, before you move on, Scott, so in our DPW engineering comments, page
Yes.
5, number 6, talks about site inspection. You do not make a note that you require notification. Do you want to amend that, number 6, for notification as well?
What about modifying 4? Because we're,
I guess I still have pre-construction meeting in there too.
Yeah, so if you could work on your rewording of that before the end of the meeting, and we'll discuss your wording when you're done
well,
marking
we're
that
going to
up.
have to deal with conservation on
Okay.
having a
Yep.
comment.
Kimberly, please.
I just had one more. So the proposed porous paver driveway is, really at the outer edge. It's kind of like 75 feet off. But you also have proposed area to be loamed and seeded or porous pavers right down there close to the water. And I would prefer that that be loamed and seeded because porous pavers, if they're not maintained appropriately, and they're really tricky, they become impervious pavement once they get filled in with sediment. So I've seen a lot of projects that just simply fail because people can't maintain them, and without you having a very expensive vacuum truck to vacuum these pavers, they can be tricky. And so that close to the water, I'd rather see loam and seed.
Okay.
I'm less inclined about the failure of the one that's further up the shore. It's just over time they accumulate sediment and grit and they become impervious surfaces. So that would be what I would like to see.
Well, those comments give rise to the driveway then, because we don't want the driveway to fail.
Yeah, I just don't, right there, that close to the water, I'd rather that see loam and seed. But I don't see the whole
Well,
of the driveway being.
Number 3 on page 4,
Yeah, I asked
it
for the
includes
maintenance
a
schedule.
maintenance schedule and maintenance routine for the porous pavers. So that's
Yeah,
covered in the
but
notes.
they're really, really, really hard to maintain, so.
Well, then, if
just
they're hard to
want put it
maintain,
on record.
let's just say this, if they're hard to maintain and we're gonna accept the risk that they're gonna fail within 5 years, then why would we approve them in the first place?
I'm just pointing, that's my
Well,
opinion,
I'm
if you
just-
disagree.
I'm
I think that
working
close to the
backwards.
water, I'd like to see loam and seed.
Okay, well, I understand your point about that, but I do wanna cover the point about the porous pavers, because this is a relief from the outer 50 based on their comment that it's gonna work. But if they don't maintain it, it doesn't work, then where do we go from there?
Then we're allowing people to put substances in our town that we constantly have to chase to make sure they're adequately maintained. It's just one of the other many, many things that we do in our town that we, there's a risk to it.
Okay,
I understand your point.
okay. All right, any other board members? Barbara?
Isn't this discussion we just had one of the reasons we have conservation chime in?
Well, did we miss comments from them?
They-
They didn't, or they canceled the meeting,
Right,
so
so-
they haven't looked at this.
So we are going to wait for conservation
So
comments?
I think we're going to have to, based on our procedure,
That's
we're
fine.
going to have to wait
I wanted to make
to
sure
the
that...
February meeting, but we'll get everything straightened out this meeting.
So, does anybody have anything else for the applicant, for them to take away with them tonight?
Just on Kimberly's question on that drain pipe, it's already shown as being removed, so we don't need to say anything more, correct?
Yeah, so they do propose a new downspout outlet.
Okay. I just
and-
wasn't clear what it's currently draining, so that's good.
Yeah, so if you look at the northeast corner of the existing building, they show a 4-inch PVC pipe to an existing swale. And that is also a comment I had. I was out on site. There is no swale there, so I just recommend putting in some type of outlet protection there.
Is that in your write-up, or is that an additional one?
What was that?
I think it's number 2.
Right, it's just in the
Oh,
Yes,
okay,
number
yeah.
2.
explanation.
Yep.
So Kimberly, how do you want to handle the plan, page 2 of 3, where we are now going to remove the word "or porous pavers"? Do we have to have them resubmit a cleaned up sheet, or how do you want to handle that, Kimberly? Because if it's on the plan, we approve the plan.
I don't know, can we get the applicant to agree to loam and seed instead
Yeah,
of
we can
pavers
do
down
that.
there?
This doesn't get recorded, it's just in the file, so if we have the conditions of approval, I think.
This doesn't even get signed, to tell you the
Yeah,
truth.
yeah, so
It's just
It's
just the
information, so I think we
file's good, it's within the file, so.
make it in the,
So it would have to be a note in the file that the applicant will agree to remove the word "or porous pavers" on the shoreline area.
yeah.
Well, I would suggest it be made a condition of approval, and
Fine.
then it will be there.
I'm not sure we actually got asked if you wanted that.
We put it there because it's fine.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, board members, anything else? Applicants, you have anything else you'd like to add at this time?
I'm a little confused, so, about the process. So if, like, there was a comment about the outlet protection for the drain pipe, do we need to put that on the plan to submit, or? And I'm a little, do we have to provide a plan that now shows the porous
We do a-
pavers, or is that
We do a
all?
lot of "we trust you for your word" stuff here.
Okay.
And if it's in the conditions of approvals, even if it's not on the plan, it is a condition of approval, and you have to meet the conditions of approval.
Let's
Okay.
For the CO, yeah, you would have to meet those conditions, so.
Okay.
Do you need to review the plans of that?
Review the plans?
On the gutter?
I would just, when we go, if it's one of our approval conditions, when building department reaches out to us to see if we're ready, if we're okay for the C of O, one of us will head over and make sure that all the conditions are met, so. I don't necessarily think it has to be on the plan, I don't know. I think just the approval condition is fine, see it being a huge deal if it's not on the plan.
They've done a pretty thorough job. I don't want
Yeah.
to make them do changes just to.
Joanne, have the applicants seen the conditions from the DPW number 6, especially what talks about an escrow
I
payment?
sent it
Okay.
over. Did
You
you?
know about
This
that?
afternoon, yeah.
Okay, I didn't want
I've
you to
looked at
get
it.
blindsided by that.
Yeah, so how that works is, I'll review the plans and then basically estimate how many hours we would actually be out there, which for this, it wouldn't be many. And we have a set rate for our engineering department to be out there. So I'll create an estimate and send it over to you, request a check. The check gets held in an escrow account, and as we go out, we would technically bill that escrow account, the engineering department, and if we don't utilize all the funds, whatever's left gets refunded back to you.
Okay, good. I want to make sure you knew about that. All right. Are you ready for a motion to continue to,
How about a public hearing?
oh yeah, you're right about that. Thank you. In your former
Democracy,
chair.
public hearings.
They're just little nuisances, aren't they? All right, at this point, don't vacate your chair just yet. Is anybody here to speak on the application for map 42, lot 60? So we open the public hearing. Nobody's here, so we will close the public hearing. Now, Barbara.
We historically, based on our ordinance and process, rely on conservation for comment on this, so I would move to continue this to the meeting in February on the 23rd. And making that motion, I don't see any issues with it, but conservation on these kind of things exists to take a look at these things.
And I'd request that Joanne write up the proposed conditions so we have them in front of them based on the discussion, so then we can just approve them quickly. Because some of us, a month to remember anything is too long, if you have them for us. I'm not talking about you, Phil. Yeah.
Joanne, Scott is going to do a modified number 6 for
Okay.
the DPW.
It might be helpful to have them for the Conservation Commission too, when they take a look at it.
Yeah, that, because that would put a couple of their fears to rest, probably.
Do you know when they're reconvening, John?
February 2nd.
Does, did I add a second on Barbara's motion, or did I not hear a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor of continuing this application till February 23rd, 2023, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you for coming in. We'll see you on the 23rd.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just a question. There's a lot of information in here. We may want to bring these back for the next meeting.
Remind us.
Yeah, don't
A
throw
lot of
them away.
information in there.
We might want to have it as a sample at the counter for what we're expecting in these applications
Yeah.
also, because this was a very well-done application.
I know the wetland scientist, and we see him tomorrow at the conference, I'll tell him he did a good job. I think the report's good.
Okay, folks. Our next application is map 12, lot 2, map 9, lot 64, Eversource.
Here's the team.
More pole relocations and replacements, I'm guessing. So, with that, I will ask Joanne for anything you need to add to this before we begin talking to these folks.
No, they're here to replace 3 structures. They will have a temporary impact of 1,519 square feet.
Is this application complete?
Sorry.
You know, Joan, I was going to ask about that. Could you please put the part here that site plan, final recommendations about all the stuff like that? Could you move that to the front so we can see it at the beginning, you know? I'm saying because it gets lost when I read the application.
Way up front.
Yeah, right after the overview, if you will, we need to remember to find the application complete, where review, no regional impact, blah, blah, blah. And do you have yeah, because you have it on page 9
Yeah.
as a final recommendation. Should almost be a prior. So Barbara, do you want to make that motion? Or did you just bring
Is
it
there
up?
any regional impact?
There is none.
I make a motion that we find this application is complete and does not have a regional impact.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? All those in find that this is ready to review, no regional impact, and complete, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, chair votes yes. We're good. So now, Joanne, if you'd like to bring up anything.
Okay, so they are here to replace 3 utility structures that will be 15 feet taller than the ones that they are replacing. There will be an impact of 1,519 square feet, temporary, I should say temporary impact to the wetland. They have also submitted a functions and values assessment report. And this is in the area of Shanty and Portage Roads.
Shanty Road. Yep, good luck getting down that one.
They also need a conditional use permit because they're a public utility, and that's one of the requirements.
So what do you want to start with?
Oh, Mr. Chair, I'm down, we live down the stream a little ways, but we're not directly impacted, so I'm not considering any conflict on this.
Just on the
Just
book
for-
that they
just
want
for
to
the
work on,
record,
that's
yeah, I
probably
got-
a conflict of
It's a lot of
interest.
black work, but it's okay.
I don't know, the polls are
I
gonna be...
could have a conflict of interest, but I don't.
That's my response.
All right. So, Joanne, do you want to begin with the application, the conditional use permit? You want to hear from them first? What's the
I
procedure?
think you should hear from them, and then they can go over the criteria for the conditional use permit, and then you can review the functions and values report.
Okay. So could you folks identify yourself for the record, please?
Sure. Ashley Friend with Eversource Energy. And Lindsay White with GZA.
Please begin.
Sure. So, as mentioned, we are here for a conditional use permit application for impacts within the Wetlands and Surface Water Conservation District. We were here back in July for a larger scope of utility pole replacements along the C196 and Q171 transmission lines. That work has been ongoing, is in construction currently. Eversource did identify some more pole replacements that they would like to include while they're out doing this work. And these 3 poles are in a different area than where the other work was proposed. So they were looking to replace these 3 poles that they would access off of Portage Road. The work does require temporary wetland impacts in order to cross the wetland system that contains Black Brook in order to get to one of the structures. And similar to the rest of the scope of work that's been ongoing, in order to cross the stream and the wetland, they would use temporary timber matting in order to create a temporary access road, and that timber matting would be removed once the poles are replaced and work is completed. So that's kind of the short summary. I know you've seen this before. That work is ongoing, so I didn't want to delay too much.
Will this also be continued during the winter months when it's less impact? You're moving this out to summer?
This will likely be done before the end of 2023. So we had started the larger C196, Q171 project that you saw a couple months back. That was started in about October timeframe. We're a little restrained with our outage scheduling right now. We have some outages later in the summer because that's when we can get them. We are anticipating for this project to be done though probably by late summer, early fall, and fully removed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wonder if you're going out there when the snow's on the ground, it's easier.
There's a potential I know that we're going to get pushed to the February 23rd meeting, so there's a potential that this might be done earlier, like in the March timeframe, but I don't know what they're planning to sequence at this
Whatever.
moment, so.
Just a question, not a,
Yep.
nothing else. Joanne, does this also have to go before conservation?
Well, this is a conditional use permit versus the other, but it still has to do with the wetlands, so
So Concom has to see it.
I need to look it up for sure. I don't know if they
I mean,
Well, if they're anticipating late '23, one more
We're
meeting
not
is not going to...
holding the project.
We're not
Right,
holding anybody
right.
up. So, fine. All right, do you have anything else to add at this time, ladies? Okay, board members?
I think I'm not an engineer, but it looked like the usual thorough presentation, and Kimberly can look at it, or Scott can tell us if we're missing something.
No, and the comments I have are they're basic, they're pretty much the same ones that we've had for every one of these applications that came in. So driveway permit, BMPs, monitoring reports. I will say, the driveway permit, I put that on there. There is currently access down there. It looks like on this map that I have, it looks like at one point pole 104 was replaced, and a gravel road has been built there, and a driveway permit was never pulled for it. At least I can't find it in my records, so that's why I included that note for this one.
Okay.
So-
Now, would you be looking for us to do the similar driveway paving of the apron
Well,
part, or if
I
we did
kinda-
a restoration there, would that be sufficient?
It depends. I mean, it looks like it's a gravel road that was kind of put in place, so it appears that it's going to be used again. And I don't know if that's the case or not. So if you plan to continue to use it, I would like an actual driveway as opposed to, I think we did some temporary construction permits for some of the accesses for the previous one. So if this is going to stay, I'd like it to be a standard driveway permit.
Okay.
So just figure it out and let me know.
I usually listen to your presentations, I try to at least, and I noticed tonight that you say these poles are going to be 15 feet taller than the existing poles. I don't know I've ever heard that in the past, or is this becoming the norm now?
No, we put an approximation. I don't have the details
Fine.
in front of me,
I'll
but
go with the approx.
15 feet is kind of almost a worst case scenario in a lot of.
But has it become the norm to put taller poles in, or just replace them as with existing heights?
They are taller than the existing wood, so that is a norm to increase the height. It's to meet National Safety Electrical Code standards.
Okay.
So cars and vehicles have gotten bigger over time, and you can't just increase one pole that crosses a road, everything down at, from an engineering standpoint, there's a domino effect that goes on. So
Yeah.
to meet clearances, and even with our wires, the separation of the distance between, the conductors from the other wires on the lines, we have to increase the height.
Okay, thank you.
And you're changing material, the poles and all of it.
Steel.
Yep, a weathered steel. They come in, they're normally like a rusty orange color, but over time they get, they oxidize.
Oxidized.
Yes, sorry. And they get like a rusty bark colored over time.
Oh, they almost look like trees?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like the cell towers with the limbs on them.
The one in Dunbarton's perfect.
Kimberly?
All access for this is coming off of Portage Road, you're not coming in from the north?
Nope.
Okay, I just asked that because the Finks are in a butter to the north, and I know that they had concerns about access to their property.
Nope, just from Portage for these three.
Go back to your discussion of the driveway, and your discussion of the driveway. I would think there's a possibility, and I'm not an Eversource engineer, but you wouldn't actually want people using the road under the power line. So I've noticed in a lot of places you mat the ditch line, you get into the project, and then when you're all done, you take the mats out and the ditch line is restored so people can't drive their pickup trucks and things up under the power lines. Is that a consideration?
Yeah,
when
that's
you're figuring
that-
driveway permits out?
That's certainly our preference in terms of, if the goal is to protect the town road, and we would much rather place a mat temporarily than pave a driveway, because we're gonna be bringing heavy equipment
It's-
over
it's a
there
gravel-
repeatedly.
It's like
and
a pristine gravel road that's
Yeah.
in there right now.
But
If
as
you go
you,
to Street View, it wasn't there a few years ago, and it exists now.
Except
so-
that pristine gravel road is there to use for the future, but access to the gravel road is what they, sounds
Yeah,
like they're trying to
so
eliminate.
maybe in this situation, if you want to keep the gravel there, maybe we do have some rocks placed in front of it. I think there was one off of Goffstown Back Road last year that was done.
Don't you have gates off of Shirley Hill?
Yeah, gate installations or placing large boulders, we are also happy to do that, and it's certainly something we would favor doing over paving an apron. Again, when we're bringing heavy equipment over that entrance, pavement's not going to hold up over that time. That's why we construct roads with gravel. Just holds up better, and we can always top dress it and go back
Yeah,
5-10 years later.
the gate's not a bad idea, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know up on the Kennedy Hill Road where you guys have done some work, they've got some probably 6 or 8 inch black iron pipe, there's gates there, and
Put them everywhere, yeah.
seems to be
They're
doing
all
the
over the
job.
place,
I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of a case-by-case basis too, because sometimes we're asked to put a gate in, but then it's a large open field, and so someone could, very obviously, if it was an ATV or something, they could get around it, but, yeah, we're happy to have another discussion offline
Okay.
of this particular location, or even review them as we continue to have future applications, and if, just figure out whatever makes the most sense
Well, I really
for the
don't think
town.
we have any authority to tell you to put gates up or not.
Yeah.
It's through the driveway
think
permit
so.
process, you decide how you want to
Yeah.
close the driveway up. That's
Yeah.
between you and the engineering department.
Okay.
We're not telling you to put gates up.
Yeah.
please. Okay,
My recollection is there's an old bridge in Portage Road over the stream that's gone, so that's where you're gonna be adding to cross. So,
Portage is up high right here, and then it goes down, this road actually goes down at a pretty steep grade from Portage down to pole 103. I think it kind of levels out where the unnamed stream and Black Brook are, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so we would be planning to put in a gravel road coming off of Portage, and that's why it's shown as just that plain pink dotted line. Once you get to the wetland and the wetland buffer is when we switch to the temporary timber matting. And then, once we get across Black Brook, again proposing some disturbance in that area as well for grading and graveling out the work areas. Those work pads, I'll just note, we permit for 100 by 100 work pad areas just because that gives us a little bit of flexibility for the contractor to safely set up all their equipment, flatten out the work pad. But once construction is complete, they do taper that work pad down to a 30 by 60 foot area, and restore that so they don't leave that 100 by 100 area if they even needed it to be that wide at the end of the day.
board members, anything else? Applicants, anything else? Joanne, do you want to hold on the conditional use permit until after we get information from Concom, or move, what's your recommendation?
Well, that's fine, because it has to do with the functions and values report, so they'd be looking at that as well.
So we'll hold off on the
Yeah.
conditional use permit tonight? Okay, if there is nothing else, you agree, we'll see you on the 23rd of February?
Motion to continue.
So there's nothing else from any board members before I have to do a public hearing, don't I, Barbara, again?
Oh, did we do?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yes, we do.
Okay, see that, I remember this time.
Could-
So before we do a motion, we're gonna open the public hearing.
Have they made the statement?
Oh, they were supposed to go through the conditions.
Yeah, that proposed construction is essential.
We were gonna hold off on the conditional use permit until the next meeting.
Well, if
Yeah, but they can read it into
If they
the
put it
record.
in evidence now, we don't have to
All right.
appeal.
So do you wanna hold off on the public hearing, Jim?
Yeah, let's just have them, just so it's in the record that they've met those standards.
So do you wanna have them answer the questions for the conditional use permit
Well,
now?
it's under 13.3.7.1.
It's on page 3 of their report. If they
It
just
does on
sort of
page
reference
7.
that on the
That's right,
record, we
yeah.
should be all set.
So Jim, I'm gonna let you take the lead on the conditional use permit, let's get it
Well,
taken
no,
care
I
of.
think Barbara's suggestion is just, where is it?
What's Barbara's suggestion?
There's two standards. We have our usual conditional use permit standards, but on section 13.3.7.1, we also allow, this is the section that authorizes under our wetlands ordinance, and the proposed construction that is essential to the productive use of land not within the water district. And the design, construction, and maintenance methods will minimize any detrimental impact upon the wetland and will include restoration of the site as nearly as possible to its original grade and condition. And they may have made that finding, that representation. I just want to make sure we have it in our minutes and can make those findings. Maybe they can summarize their. That your cue to say yes, that all those are true.
Yes, because your letter detailed the outer 50 conditions, and what Member Raymond just went through was the CUP provisions of 1337, so.
Do you want to see that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, we have detailed responses in the application. Do you want us to go through one by one, or just say?
No, you can be, but what I did not see, and maybe it's here, is you address the conditional use permit standards in the rest of the ordinance, but not the express ones in 13.3.7.1 for the wetlands ordinance. Let me show you, if I may, the section, which is really an additional.
Yeah, so we do have, under 15.4.1.4.1, the use is specifically authorized in the ordinance as a conditional use, and then we go into per section 13.3.7.1, that we do agree that the plan, it says the planning board may grant the conditional use permits to allow construction or
Oh, you've got it
replacement.
in the
Oh, I see.
15.4.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Sorry about that.
I find it now.
Page 4.
It's also here in your packet.
Okay.
You're the one that said they were complete, Jim.
Okay.
So are you satisfied at this time?
I think I am, that it's essential to the productive use of land not within the, I think they've made that, and the construction maintenance methods will minimize any detrimental impact upon the wetlands, include restoration.
So we will hold off on the asking and the answering of each specific part of the conditional use permit until our next meeting?
Yeah, I don't think we have to, if it's in the report, they've made the presentation. I just want to make sure they've done both sections of our zoning ordinance, because there are
Right.
two they have to do.
Right, yeah, they did.
So anyone that's looking for a conditional use permit can file a report and we don't have to do the readings and the answering?
As long as we reference.
I just want to make sure, because we generally go through the motions, and I don't want to create a situation where
We know how to read.
I understand,
No, I think we're good.
it's precedent.
Yeah, something, yeah. No, we don't have to have them read this.
Okay.
I don't think.
Okay, board members, anything else? Motion? Barbara? You started, I thought?
To continue.
No, we got to open the public hearing.
Yeah, I think we got
We're gonna open the
sidetracked. We
public
need to
hearing
start
now.
the public
That's right,
hearing.
Sorry, we're all over.
7:55. Anybody here to speak to the Eversource application, other than the people that are already at the table? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. Now you may make a motion, Barbara.
Motion to continue to February 23rd.
Second.
Save that packet.
Bring your packets. in.
Wait.
Everybody want to discuss the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. We will see you on the 23rd.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Could we have Joanne do the same thing as proposed?
And we will, since we've covered most everything, we will just have it, make it as brief as possible.
And if Joanne could have the proposed, incorporate any comments from Scott, so we have it all in front of us.
Okay, we have a conceptual, Joanne, could you give us a run on it?
Yes, this is for Brian Bradford, who is the owner of the property. The property is zoned agricultural and is on map 6, lot 68.
The address is 233 Goffstown Back Road. So the owner had originally submitted an application with a waiver for an engineered site plan. And after review by staff, there were several comments, and one of those comments had to do with drainage. And DPW had said, well, there's pictures that we have in the file showing some good amount of flooding on Goffstown Back Road coming down from that property during a heavy rainstorm. And so DPW had said that they were not in favor of waiving an engineered site plan. So we spoke with Mr. Bradford and suggested that he come in first to speak with you before moving forward and spending more money, so that he can get an indication as to what you would like to see and whether, you know, he should pursue an engineered site plan. So he's here to kind of go over what his proposal is and what he's been doing up there. This has actually been operating as a business. It stopped for a while after the building inspector, health officer had been up there last year, and they shut him down because they said you couldn't be operating without any permits. And so he's back to try to get the place back open, and the next step would be to come before the board.
So I'm assuming, since we're here tonight, that this is a permitted use in the zone, right? Operating a business in the zone?
Yes, I do have Derek, who is the acting zoning, or still is the acting zoning code, not code, but zoning officer. He has submitted in writing, like last year, we have a written email from him stating that he felt it was a allowed use because it's agricultural use. So it's an agricultural use, bringing the public onto the site, and that's why we had concerns, because there was, the public was involved, or would be involved.
Under what rules do we decide these agricultural uses? Do we have a list of acceptable uses? I mean, where does it all generated from?
Just like farms.
We have many uses in the zoning ordinance
Okay,
that says what's
We
permitted
just don't
in the
have cow
agricultural
cattle.
area.
Just covering all the bases before we begin talking about a business in an agricultural.
Right.
So this is just it would be just a site plan review, right? If we require.
If he were to come back, yes.
Okay.
So he's here to
ask you about whether you would be in favor of the waiver going that route, or if he would be
Waiver
for an engineered site plan.
Can we hear from Scott first, so we know his,
Yeah.
because you did review it.
I'm in a butter, so I'm gonna just take my,
Refuse
I'm your neighbor.
yourself? Are you gonna recuse yourself?
Yes.
Do we have to ask Kimberly to step down from the table, or is that not required?
It's a conceptual, I don't think she wants to leave, do you?
So we'll listen to Scott first, and then I'd like to.
Okay, so this past summer, the driveway was completed, and the driveway permit itself was actually filed in 2014, I believe. Does that sound right?
I think so, yeah.
So before you go on, if I could just add, this had come in for a lot line adjustment.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very large lot, probably around that time, 2014. They applied for a driveway permit. The driveway was designed as part of this lot line adjustment. The planning board had them do a design for the driveway.
I remember.
And then the driveway was later constructed after Mr. Bradford purchased the property.
Do we have the old design available?
Yeah, it's in your
Yeah,
packet.
It's one of the
there's a
things in
driveway
here.
permit in this packet.
Because I remember some of the conditions from that driveway permit back then.
So I think what you have in your packet now, though, is a new driveway permit, because the old one was for the old owner. So it's in the one that has, it's in this one. So the plan's in there, as well as a stormwater report. So I'll cut to the chase. So during that large rain event we had right before Christmas, late in the day, Eric had got a call that there was water in the road at this driveway, and our trucks were actually plowing the water out of the road. And what it appears to have happened is maybe the catch basin at the top of the hill had snow blocking it, so it all came down the hill. Instead of, if you find the plans in there, there's a catch basin towards the top,
About 300 feet.
and it has a cross culvert that then crosses and outlets out the back side of the, let's see, so it basically outlets in the east-western direction. But when I went out there to look at it the following week, what I found was different from the original plan was just a large parking area. That parking area, although it's gravel is considered impervious area. So that impervious area is now all going to that drainage infrastructure over there, and that wasn't accounted for in the 2014 stormwater report. And the 2014 stormwater report likely has outdated rainfall data. So I'd like to see that updated. And we need to have some assurances that you can maintain that catch basin at the top so that doesn't continue to happen as well. Because that could be a pretty bad hazard. If that was nighttime and that puddle was out into the road, someone could have hydroplaned and gone off the road. If the temperatures drop quickly, that freezes and now we have ice across the road. So it's a pretty big deal when that much water is coming out into the road. So that was my whole reasoning for recommending that the board require you to submit a site plan, an updated site plan and an updated stormwater report.
So Scott, I remember the plan called for this drainage feature over here.
Yeah,
on-
that completely overtopped.
Is that,
spills out into
is
the
that
road.
there today?
That is there, and it's constructed per plan.
What is it, a leaching catch basin? Or an
No,
outfall?
that's an outfall that you see. I printed,
Where does it
yeah, like
outfall
I
to?
printed a cleaner copy if you want.
What does
So
it
it's
outfall to?
it's an infiltration basin.
That's what I asked you what.
Yeah, okay.
There's no outfall.
Well, you
for
said
it.
leaching catch basin, it's an infiltration
Kind of the same thing.
swale. So, and one of the things, so this is leaching here, but I'm sure you all saw over the summer that this all had to be blasted, so I don't know how much, how much
They must have
soil
provided,
it
they
is.
must have provided us with a catch
Are you
basin.
looking at this plan? Mine's a very fuzzy plan.
That's the one.
Yours is much clearer.
Yeah,
Lori.
I printed a clean plan, you can pass that around.
Send this around
Yeah.
to Jim for openness and then. So the drainage as per the original plan was installed per plan.
Correct.
And they must have had some test pit data for that drain, or
don't know
the
if they
engineering
just-
department wouldn't have approved it.
Infiltration.
Did
So
the
we
engineering
had-
department approve it?
Well, I'm assuming they did. I go
Why
back.
are we assuming that? This is a project, this property has been stopped and started a couple of times over the years.
So, they may have just gone off of the web soil survey info, but
I'll get out my 2014 book, see if there's anything in there.
that's all I have is the web soil survey
Okay.
information in the back of it. Maybe the memo mentions it.
You don't have to go digging for that.
Well, isn't the issue here, one, the landowner's responsible for how the system is performed. And if they fail, the landowner still cannot drain water on the town's land, full stop. And
Correct, yeah,
this has
there's
failed.
an RSA.
Yeah, whether we approved it or anything, doesn't matter, because we're not guaranteeing results. That's the landowner's job.
Mm-hmm.
Two, this is a different use than what the permit was originally granted for.
Well, the new permit is for this use.
That's right, but the
yeah.
prior one, so there's a change. And three, this is now a commercial use. It's not a residential use. I mean, maybe a great use, we're not saying it shouldn't happen. So the question is, what would we require in this circumstance? And there is a demonstrated impact on public safety and infrastructure. I'm not sure why it's a difficult question, but somebody can convince me otherwise.
What's the question?
Why we would not require an engineer.
I'm recommending that we require one, yeah.
The
All right.
applicant is asking for a
Yeah,
waiver,
waiver.
so he would
Yeah.
give his
I
explanation.
understand, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not prejudging, but I just have a certain view.
Anybody else have any questions for Scott before we can come back to you, Scott, but you don't have to look for that information. Anybody else have any other questions for Scott or staff at this time? Seeing none, I'll ask you to identify yourself for the record, sir.
I'm Brian Bradford. I'm the owner of property 6, map 6, lot 68. The rainfall that happened, I mean, we had no issues all last summer, last fall with any rain issues with the catch basin. Everything worked fine. It was clogged with snow and ice. This is my first winter with having a drop inlet. Never had one before, so when we were plowing, it kind of got clogged up, and so now we know that we need to keep it clear and clean to catch all that water from going down. Eric saw everything, was out there in July when he approved it, looked at everything was fine. And so it was all approved the way that it was, and we had no issues. And like I said, the only reason why this happened was because that catch basin was clogged and not catching that water from up from the hill and above. And that's why it's, we had that little bit of flooding. Granted, there was flooding up and down that road all along. From there down to the daycare a little further towards Manchester. So, that was up until then, no issues from DPW or anywhere. I know this has been a troubled property for DPW for many years before I took over. I found out afterwards, talking with Eric, that when original guy Robert Havernack originally set up, and he jackhammered everything, and water was constantly spilling over in the winter. Since I bought it, I had kept the bottom of the driveway clear and everything. We had no issues with any winter icing or anything like that the past 2 winters. This year we got the blasting done, went through all that process, and definitely not cheap by any means, but got most of it done, and we're up until probably just before, we're up about, I think, about 400 feet in or so. That's done. We had to reapply for a new wetland permit because the previous owners let it lapse. So we had to go through that and get a whole new one done. That's now actually been submitted to DPW, and that was actually when we got the reply back about the ponding issue across the road. So now we can continue finishing the driveway at some point later this year, once we get that going, which will also help with the drainage issue, because right where the culvert is, that's going to be going across about 500 feet in, which is the main culvert for the seasonal stream. That will take a lot of the runoff from the hill that would normally, right now, is going down the hill.
Is that there now? That culvert, is that in place now?
No, it isn't. We just got the permit and we haven't done that yet. Eric said that we're good to go at any time now to do that. I just need to come up with some funds for that to finish that part of it. We have the culvert itself. We just have to get the wings for it because it's full cement wings. It's just a 20-foot wide area right now. Once it's done, right now there's just, it's riprap kind of going over the stream. The stream just trickles right through, no problem. But once that's in, then we'll be able to finish the riprap along the side there, right where the wetland area is, and that will, all the water that comes down the hill there will go into that.
Yes, that's the police talking about. It's like 36 inch, I don't know if you can read that on yours.
How much of this driveway have you completed so far? Up to that culvert?
Yeah, so about 400 feet is done with hard pack. The rest of it's all roughed in.
Up to the proposed culvert crossing, is the driveway going beyond that at this point?
No, just it's roughed in. It's dirt. No hard pack right now. It goes, but it's roughed in all the way to the end because we had to.
You're calling where the culvert crossing is that you're calling that the end?
It's actually the 100-foot wetland buffer
Yeah.
from that.
Can we just use the culvert as a
Yeah.
point?
Yeah.
So that's where the driveway ends at this point?
Correct.
So, does anybody have any, let's hear your request for waiver. Can you explain to us what you'd like to say?
So the waiver for the engineering is pretty much all we're doing is adding just a small little parking area, just so that people have a place to park, to do the cow cuddling, which is, actually has been a very positive thing for the community. I've had lots of people been waiting for this to open back up. It was really good for a lot of people. They came and it was very relaxing. I had people that would come monthly just to it's almost like a massage for some people. They just came and relaxed. I wanted to correct something that Joanne said. I got shut down not because of anything from the Department of Agriculture, Health, or anything like that. It was the fire department's concern about how steep the original driveway was.
Okay.
That's why we were shut down. The Department of Agriculture came out. They did not cite me or anything. There was no issues because there are no regulations for cattle in the state of New Hampshire. So unlike horses, there's all kinds of regulations for horses, but not for cattle. So they just had recommendations to help, and they had their concerns. They were getting plenty of water. The cattle are all very, very healthy right now. We've expanded. There was a smaller paddock last year because they were all a lot smaller. We've expanded out into the woods, which is a silvopasture, which allows for the animals to be in the woods. The woods help shelter, so you don't actually have to have a separate shelter for them. This is all per the USDA's silvopasture documentation that they have on their website. And so it helps also with any manure removal, because I know that was a concern, because it's all in the woods, all the trees, it gets broken down naturally in there. It's not like having a milking parlor where they pretty much, scrape the poop out every day and, have to have a place for it to go. Right now, it just, it's kind of like a cycle of life. It goes back into the ground, and you kind of will rotate them around, because I'll be building some more of them this summer, so that way we can rotate them around, and they'll have some grass and stuff in there for them to eat. So.
Mr. Chair?
David?
Mr. Bradford, would you very quickly explain the nature of on our drawings, the areas marked up in brown? 2 large rectangles, 3 small rectangles, and 2 large rectangular arrangements, defined.
Yeah, so the two.
What is the purpose of all those lines?
Okay, so the ones that are just a thin line, those are the silvopasture, so that's where the cows pretty much pasture.
As in fenced in?
Yeah, electric fence in. And then the three little ones, those are where the huts, where people would interact with the cows. Then there's the other little line there, that's a path. And then the big rectangle to the left of that is a parking lot area.
The larger?
The larger of the two. And then the smaller ones are pretty much a goat paddock. I have goat and sheep there as well.
If you turn the sheet over, Dave, it's on this side right here.
Oh.
How long is this driveway going to be up to the parking area, Brian?
That is just under 300 feet.
So that does not kick in the, Joanne, does not kick in any NFPA requirements?
300 feet and over.
And it's
Do we
already
know
it's already
exactly what
NFPA.
it is?
So we'd have to know what that distance is on some plan. We can't just, we know you're an honest man, but we
So-
just can't take your word for it that it's under 300 feet.
So
Yeah.
the 300.
Even if it was
feet is
300, it's
basically
NFPA
that
anyways
crossing.
because of the
That's
full length of the
station.
driveway.
3 + 0 is basically
Mr. Chair?
which you won't be able to
Excuse
read
me.
on your plan, that's my guess. So right at the crossing, so, and then the parking area is like in this area.
to the parking area is beyond the 300 feet.
So we're gonna need, the parking area is beyond the 300-foot mark according to your plan?
I believe so,
The
because
beginning-
it's beyond this cross culvert, so the cross culvert's right at 3+00, which, I mean, starts from center line of road, so, you know, like 12,
Right, and it's
20
already
feet.
an FPA because of the original length of the driveway, because it was after 600 feet, it had to be an FPA.
Does it meet the standard now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, then that's part of the reason Eric was able to
Okay,
approve
just
it the way it was.
Covering bases.
So one of the other reasons I'd like to see an actual site plan is your parking is getting close to the neighboring property bound. So we just want to make sure that you have the proper separation between parking and the property line. And it's in our regs, but the parking space size needs to be shown on the plan. And I listed off a few things. I don't know if you got my list there. So those were just a couple things right off the top of my head.
What's on, why don't you run your list to the board so we know what your list is?
Yeah, and this is not all encompassing for a plan. This is just kind of my first, when I saw this plan, these were the kind of things I saw missing. So, you know, scale and north arrow, proposed and existing contours, parking space size and aisle width of the parking, ensure the dimensions meet the town regs. So I had a couple questions or comments on here about ADA accessibility. This may be a question for our building department, but I feel like when you offer something like this, you need to be accessible. But
Yeah, it's not ADA accessible.
Okay.
It's not an ADA thing, because they can't have wheelchairs or anything like that in there with the
Yeah.
house. For safety at this point, we haven't
okay.
tested or anything like that, unfortunately.
So I just didn't know if that, like, I don't quite know how that works.
So businesses can opt out of ADA accessibility,
That's
as
what-
that's
I can't
allowable?
believe that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you think about any of the rope adventure ones, those aren't ADA.
I think it's structures, but I'm not sure that, I didn't think it applied here, but
Okay.
I'm not,
That-
no longer.
I will talk to Jack in the
That's a
building department,
building
because
department issue.
he would know.
We don't have to get bogged down in details, just
Yeah.
work on your list here.
So show property boundings to ensure parking and other features meet proper setbacks, show snow storage areas, that's an important one. Include the turning template for the fire apparatus, which I'm surprised isn't on the driveway permit.
How does the fire apparatus turn around to the top of this project?
It uses the parking area, so there's a section of the parking area where they're not supposed to park. So there'll have to be some way on the property to
It
dump
shows there's
it.
a pathway there. Is the fire engine gonna drive over the
Well,
pathway?
no, this circle right here, they're saying.
There's the pathway right there. How does the fire engine get into there without driving over the pathway?
Yeah, so the driveway goes down the hill kind of here.
I hear you.
And so,
So what do
that's
we-
the problem, is this not being scaled, it doesn't.
What do we require for for a driveway? What's the numbers? We just went through this with someone,
For a turnaround?
yeah, it's
It's
gotta be like
basically
60 feet deep, isn't it?
It's 90 by 45, I think.
Well, the
Should
number,
be.
they're gonna have to meet that number at the very least.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I think Eric already measured it out, he met the
Yeah, he
turnaround
said it was
stuff like
a
that.
65-foot radius from center.
Oh, so you went with the circle and not like a hammerhead shape, so,
There's,
yeah,
there's
I
also
mean,
comments about it from the fire department.
oh, the fire includes
Where,
some
where are they,
comments too?
Joanne?
The
In the
next
application?
page, the page 13.
Page 13.
But they don't
And then
specify.
the last
Yeah,
thing
check
I included was show existing and proposed drainage features on the plan.
Yeah, if I can just follow up on the fire department, the first fire department comment tells me nothing. Like, is it there? Is it not there? You said that they went out there. It says, provide more site and roadway details.
Well, that would be
Okay.
that'd be on a plan.
including dimensions for the emergency turnaround.
So I'm guessing they want to see those dimensions written on the plan.
Yeah, we typically see that on our plan submission, so I think
So
that's
does
why
that
we're
mean, other
doing
than that, they're okay with the driveway? Because as the applicant said, they already have to meet the
it.
standards in building
Lieutenant
it.
Connor must have gone out there,
Well,
right?
he's never stepped foot on that property.
Really?
Nope.
Okay.
No,
That
he hasn't.
surprises me.
Yeah, I mean, there was an accident there, right on Goffstown Back Road in the fall. Ambulance made it up and around, and fire truck made it up and around, no problem, so. But yeah, no, because I know his concerns were about the fire pit, which I'm fine with getting rid of the fire pit. It's 2 feet, as much as, like I said, that's why I know he hasn't stepped foot on the property. But we're gonna get rid of that, so that's not a big deal. It's just to keep me warm during the winter.
He doesn't seem to mind if it's 2 feet or smaller.
How old is the drainage report on this site?
It's from
2014?
2014.
Do we require drainage reports to be updated after a certain amount of time?
That I don't think
No.
that's in our regs anywhere.
You know, once
I
we
don't
approve
recall
it.
ever seeing it.
Once we approve it,
Yeah.
but if the
So we're,
The use is changing, the layout of the impervious area is changing, so I believe we have no issue with requesting it
Yeah, I was going to
updated.
continue my statement unless there's a change in use, and there is a change in use.
and the failure for the drainage structure to work, are you in concurrence with the applicant that it was because of snow blockage?
It's
or-
very likely it was due to that, and there possibly, this was a rain on snow event. There obviously wasn't a ton of snow at the time, but infiltration systems, if there's any frozen ground, they don't function the way they would, so that's also.
Is this
could
an
be-
infiltration bed, not a structure?
Yes,
is that
it's
what-
like a pond.
It's a
an
pond.
infiltration
And when it's frozen, it doesn't infiltrate?
Correct, yeah, so that likely contributed to it as well. There was a layer of ice. I had more pictures.
So it would stand to reason that that's gonna fail again under
It-
frozen conditions?
Especially if up at the top of the hill isn't maintained properly, that's.
Well, given it is maintained properly, water does not go through frozen ground.
Correct, but the water that didn't get into that basin should have gone a different direction, that's the problem. It wouldn't have gone down to the bottom. This is part of the reason I'd like to see an updated report. We have an outdated report from 2014, it doesn't have the same amount of impervious area. It's just outdated, I wouldn't.
Okay. David?
Mr. Bradford, Fire Department comment number 6. Are there any heated buildings? Are there any permanent buildings with foundations planned?
Nope, not right now. They're hopefully gonna have a house at some point, but
So, are there any structures for the public then? Temporary, mobile? What- How?
no, there's these huts. So it's literally just 4 posts, and that's where they interact with the cows.
As a planning board, are we concerned with public safety and sanitation for a commercial
There's
entity?
a porta potty.
There's a porta-john shown on that plan, if you'll accept that. Do you have the big plan someday to extend the driveway and build a house up in the back as the driveway?
Yeah, well, it's gonna, because we're gonna go with that original plan, so that's gonna be to finish that driveway. It's all roughed in. We were waiting for they said the wetland permit. And then before I can,
I'm afraid it would be my opinion then that if you're going to continue that driveway and put a house up there, the whole drainage plan, all the calculations designed for the driveway as a single ribbon up to the top to a house lot. Now you've added these other areas on both sides with your business.
it's the only thing that's added for an area would be the parking area.
I mean, were the cow cuddling pens, they were?
They were open and clear. I haven't changed anything on that.
I'm concerned that there's no electricity. So I'm not sure what your hours of operation are, but if you have the public up there
Well,
in the
it's
dark
on the
and there's
weekends,
no
10 to 4.
lights,
Yeah, we'll just limit it to daytime.
the board would limit it.
Yeah. No. That's fine.
Okay, we don't want to drag this all out forever and ever. Do we have some recommendations here at this point from board members?
I think we should follow Scott's recommendation and require a drainage study, but it's also I think it's a use that requires a site plan. The question is, what can we waive, what do we need in a site plan?
Could we consider allowing an amended plan from what is on file?
We don't have a site plan, we have a drainage plan for a residential use.
But could we allow them to amend that to include the extra?
I don't think there is any site plan.
There's only a lot line
There's
adjustment.
no,
Doesn't the plan have contours on it and calculations of impervious surfaces? I'm not saying not do it, I'm saying
well,
make it a little less painful.
Yeah, I know, and we'd like to, because I don't want to add cost to this, because.
Well, you're gonna add cost.
But, yeah, Scott mentioned some issues, like the location of the parking setback from the abutter, and we don't know that without having a plan.
Survey.
Yeah, I don't think we can just add notations on a plan that was done for a different purpose in this case. But, yeah, there's, for example, for site plan purposes, we don't care about what happens up the street, up his driveway, because that's a residential use. We don't need to have the whole property shown, but I think we do need to address Scott's concerns, what's going on in this area. It seems a shame to require a full site plan on what's kind of a nice use in my mind, but I don't know how much we scroll back. And we do want the drainage.
So this was prepared
July 20.
by an engineer, Todd Connors, in Manchester, for the
I'm not
prior
sure
applicant.
I'm not sure which one you're waiving.
The original
This is
site
the
plan-
blurry one we
original
have.
plan for the
Oh, we
house.
can't read?
It seems to me that plan, if everything fits, could be shown on that plan, thereby, and the property line to the,
I don't know if those are surveyed property lines, that's one issue with this plan.
well, that's what I'm saying, we have to determine if that's a surveyed property line, and if such, it has to be shown as a surveyed property line.
Yeah, there's no notes on it that really indicate, I don't know if the next sheet maybe does, but I think the next sheet might be, oh, there's some other little notes.
Tax map notes. Well, in an effort to try to make it a little less painful for the applicant to do this, I would suggest that if we would permit the engineer of records plan that's on file for the driveway to be modified and show the changes that want to be made to the site on this plan and meets the requirements and do an updated drainage study. I agree with that. As opposed to generating a whole brand new site plan.
Mr. Chair,
I'll accept your motion.
I just question how you can add those things to a plan that is missing the usual information, including courses and distances. It's a plan done for different purposes, but if it can be amended to show the information that we need, I wouldn't be, but I don't want to just give some blanket assurance that it can be done. If the applicant wants to come back with a proposal, I think
Well, that's it. It would be something we would consider.
we'd consider, certainly, yeah. Because on what I'll call fairly minor uses, we do waive elements of the site plan approval. I'm just not sure I can agree the way you express it, because I don't know enough of whether that can be.
I don't either. I'm just saying that plan was prepared and it's got to be on a Mylar somewhere in somebody's office.
Yeah, if it can be converted.
Maybe it can't. Maybe the applicant.
The CAD file could still exist, it just,
Yeah, they're out of-
But they're out of
business.
business.
They're out of
He's
business.
now an engineer for the city of Manchester.
Does Mike Dahlberg have This is place, he's at TF Moran now.
Yeah, he's at two.
Why, was he the surveyor?
Well, the lot line adjustment plan is done by him.
No, I don't want to, I'm going to leave these things up to the applicant if the decision is made.
I think the consensus of the board might be that we're amenable to a waiving many of the requirements of our site plan application, but it still has to address the items, the concerns that Scott addressed, setbacks, and particularly drainage.
And an updated drainage.
Yes.
So no site plan, but updated drainage?
No, we're going to require a site plan, but it can be an abbreviated. He can ask for a waiver of, if you go through the list, a lot of stuff we probably don't need here, and typically we go through it and say, we're waiving, numbers 4, 18, 27, 36, whatever. I just, based on what information they can provide on a plan.
Do you concur, Scott, that they could add the elements to this plan if they could verify lot lines? Could they add elements of locations of parking, the structures that he proposes, the huts he proposes? Could they be added to this
I mean, there's definitely some PDF programs that you can put a plan in and get the plan to scale, and you can draw on it, you can draw to scale. So that's one way he could do this. I still, not knowing where the lot lines are.
Well, it would obviously require some surveying.
Yeah, so I think that's the big one there then is, figure out where the lot lines actually exist
And then meet the setback, the distance from the set lot line with any improvements to the site.
Exactly, yeah, so as long as setbacks are
And what is the number? 10 feet?
I believe it's 10 feet for the parking. And he has fence around it, which I believe can be within that 10 feet.
Well, I don't know about that. That's something you can determine with Joanne
Yeah.
when they read the regulations together.
There are other items on the staff report that need to be addressed as part of
Well,
that.
let us have it then, Joanne. Go ahead.
Well, this number 3.
What page are you on?
Page 12. Number 3, the scale in North Arrow,
Yeah.
the
Oh, that's
contour,
on this plan, so. if
the
you really
proposed
use
and
this-
existing contours,
Yep.
the parking size and aisle widths, and the size of the parking area as a whole. The size of the parking spaces.
I'm going to suggest that for the type of use of the gravel parking lot, some of those can be waived. We don't need a striped parking lot, for example.
Yeah, have just wood, police
stops.
said, yeah, so it's pretty much just like wood
Yeah,
stops.
I mean,
There's a showing, so there's 9 foot.
For very seasonal use, it doesn't make sense
Wood stops
to
you're
pave and
using.
stripe.
I just didn't, I wanted to see it on the plan so we could make sure he had adequate parking for the use, which I don't know what we're considering, like what the parking count would need to be, because I don't think the zoning ordinance specifies.
National
so-
standards
Yeah,
don't have a,
We went off of 7 spots,
Are you
we
going to
did
be-
3 huts,
Are you going to be a seasonal business or a year-round business?
year round.
The snow storage areas, the turning template for the fire department, existing and proposed drainage, which is part of the drainage report, the
Can I
emergency.
say something? We're sort of doing two different things here. We're here for a waiver in regards to the drainage study, right? So
No,
now.
No,
We're-
he's
we're
just
for a
here
waiver
for
of the site plan.
conceptual. He's
But
just
this
here for
isn't-
conceptual.
Okay, all right, just so we're
But-
sort of shooting this around, so you've got a pretty good idea if he comes in with a waiver request that,
I thought he was asking for a waiver tonight.
no,
No,
no. That's,
Okay.
It's a conceptual.
yeah.
Even in a conceptual. would you
How
let me
are-
do-
how are the electric fences powered, hours of
solar, right?
operation, you just said year-round. Trash, what's happening with the trash? Just things like that, I mean, they need to be addressed if this is a business and people are going up there.
Do you have a dumpster on site or not?
No, I just take it with me. I have a trash can, if any trash, and then I just take it for the end of the day. Yeah, so everything's the solar powered fences. Do have a question. What do you mean by storage, snow storage? I don't know.
Place where when you plow your snow, where are you gonna pile your snow on the site? That's not
Oh,
in
gotcha.
your parking spaces.
Okay.
Because otherwise you end up piling it up in your parking spaces, you reduce your amount of parking.
Gotcha.
Or on top
Or
of
access to
drainage
the
structures.
site by the fire department, any number of reasons.
Okay.
Where are you gonna pile your snow?
Okay.
When? And it's basically, it looks like a little cloud on the print, and you write snow storage in the middle.
Okay.
It's kind of an area off to the side where you can
Okay.
pile snow.
Alright.
Joanne can show you an example of that sometime on a site plan.
Okay.
So board members, are we at a point where we are gonna recommend that this applicant come back with a amended plan of some sort, if he can pull it off with that thing, or
He's
if
gonna-
he can't, that's his, and he's gonna have to come back with a full.
Well, he's gonna file a site plan application, and in his application, he can request waiver of certain items that are in our regs if
Yeah.
they don't apply. And I think we've indicated we're willing to see if he can work with an existing plan, we just don't know if
Right.
he can. And then we want the drainage study.
And the items listed in the report have to appear on the
Well,
amended plan.
they are items that we need to address, whether you could say why they should be waived, solar
That's fine.
instead of, but they're items that normally we would look at.
And did you mention earlier you wanted to see a survey?
Well, you're gonna have to know where that lot line is on the
For the
neighbor's
site
land so
plan.
that the parking can meet the setback requirement from the neighbor's
And
parking
it depends
lot
on
line.
what he
So
can
the-
recreate.
Although
Property is
Dahlberg
like
has
23
a lot.
acres.
Well, so we can request a waiver for, certain points for not doing anything. I mean, we've done that before for its big sites.
At least that one boundary line has to be identified.
Yes.
But Howard doesn't.
And so these lot lines wouldn't be that?
Those lot lines are
Because isn't
not,
this part of the adjustment for,
we don't know that these are the
Those-
survey lines, do we?
I don't think they are. They don't show any type of bounds, they don't show a length, they don't show a bearing.
But Mike Dahlberg's lot line adjustment plan does.
Yes, but
That's hard to read.
I'm not sure what part of the property Mike
But they don't
Dahlberg's
sit on,
lot
Yeah.
they don't sit
Yeah.
on.
It's really hard to read.
Although there's a match line, so we're missing a sheet from what we have here.
No, it's on the bottom.
Backside.
It's there, I saw it.
On the backside.
Match
Oh,
line is
okay.
right there.
Okay, so so you do have it, so it doesn't identify what that is. It looks like a iron pin.
Well, if you can find those boundary markers and prove that those are
yeah,
there, then
there's a pin all the way at the bottom of the driveway, and then there's the pin right up by the seasonal brook.
Yeah, there's actually
A little jog halfway up.
yeah,
about
and
8
it's a
feet.
drill hole set at V mark found. I don't know if that means at V mark found. So a drill hole is,
we'll let him figure it out.
Yeah,
He's
it's
the he's the
typically-
applicant.
a drill hole would be found in some sort of stone. That's when
Right.
they do drill
There's
holes.
plenty of that there.
So you do have a survey line.
do
and
have
If you can
survey
identify the pins,
Okay.
then you could show it on your amended plan that that's
Okay.
where the line is, and my parking area and, if required, fence are 10 feet from the property line, which is what the requirement is for that. I believe, Scott told me to it.
And so what your drainage report will ultimately need to say is that before this development happened versus once the development is complete, there'll be no extra water leaving your site. So whatever was coming off of your site before it's developed,
Does not increase.
you can't have an increase.
But
So
we
that's-
also don't want it on the road, I mean, it's.
Correct, yes, obviously that's a huge concern so, which could ultimately just be a maintenance issue, honestly, so.
Yeah.
I know you said there were no issues this summer, but it also barely rained this summer, so.
Oh, there was some massive storms, and that's when we were like,
what
we
town?
watched it.
Yeah.
Which town was that in? Other than this one
I
here?
know
a
there were some heavy downpours, but they were like 10 minutes to 20 minutes long,
Yeah.
which.
Yeah, like Florida has.
So can we have our next meeting with the cows, because we'll need to.
So, Brian, are you clear what we've all been talking about here?
Yeah.
You understand everything that was said?
Yep.
And you know that plan, that driveway plan from Mr. Pavnik?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe
that
it came,
plan-
yeah,
If you can find your way to that plan, and you
Yeah.
have someone that can draw the improvements on that plan, show the
Scale.
differences and show where they are, and your drainage report backs it up, you're getting close to the finish line, but not all the way yet.
And you can, if you have questions about what you think you need to ask for a waiver for, feel free to reach out to me. And
Okay.
I can work with you to.
I mean, like
make
light
sure.
striping, we're not gonna make it, like Jim said, we're not striping a dirt lot.
Yeah, yeah, and I wasn't expecting striping, I was
Right.
just,
Space.
you know, we typically show parking spaces that the sizes are there and the aisle width is there to be able to back out. That's
then-
all I was really.
Explain them the templates for the, you complained about the
Yeah,
templates for the
yeah.
turning radiuses later.
That'll be tough without a CAD.
You have to figure it out.
Okay, I'm gonna move that we leave it to the applicant. Yeah, we talked more about this than the other two. But
This was a work, this was more work. Okay, are you good, Brian?
Yep,
Maybe we'll see you again.
all righty. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So, question.
Yeah.
When I was
All right.
visiting your site on Sunday,
Oh, the goat, you were the one
The
that,
goat.
then you went down and
the
saw.
goat immediately came up to me, I patted it, very friendly,
Yeah.
You collect from
Yeah,
them?
that's
You collect
Samoa.
took all my stress away.
Yeah.
Do we have any,
That was Samoa.
any other business? I do,
I have one thing.
go ahead, I have something else too, I have a quick thing.
No, go ahead.
I did not ask the applicant for the condos on, next to the Shell station, I did not ask for them to extend the 65-day clock that night. I remembered that when I went home. They did not agree to waive the 65-day
You didn't
clock.
find them
I
complete,
thought they
you?
did, but I can check my notes.
yeah, if we didn't accept it,
Yeah,
it doesn't start running.
Oh.
Oh, that's
so
right, yeah.
yeah.
That's why, because now that's why we didn't waive the clock then.
Right.
I'm on my way home thinking I made a
It
mistake and
wasn't
didn't ask
found
for something I was
complete,
supposed
but
to
you
tonight, Brian.
continued it to
There was
date
no
certain.
clock to waive yet.
Okay, thank you. And Joanne, what was yours?
My question has to do with raising that postage fee. I checked
Raising?
raising the amount
Last
of the
time we had a
postage.
recommendation that the postage for notification.
Oh,
of the
yeah, yeah,
fire
for
be
Patty,
raised.
right.
And so the postage, we were notified by the office today that the postage has now gone up to $8.10. So the town's only charging $8, so we're actually paying 10 cents for every letter now.
So,
On top of Patty's time.
Oh,
So,
that's part of the
So we would like to raise it to $10.
some of,
Okay, because you had asked earlier at the previous meeting if we had to hold a hearing.
I asked
I can't find
I'm
anything.
not sure that we do, so I'm gonna move that we do it. If somebody
Okay.
doesn't like it, they can go to
Wanted to make
court.
sure. I didn't want to
So
go.
you're making a motion to
Oh,
raise
you
the
had
Yeah.
asked.
motion?
Okay.
Yeah, Mays to cover the increased postage costs and other costs, we raised the fee to $10.
So what does that mean, per
certified
butter?
mail. Yeah,
Per
mailing?
certified
per
mail.
certified
Yes.
mail.
So that's Jim Raymond. Who seconded Jim's motion?
I didn't hear a second yet.
I could second.
All right. If nobody seconds it, it don't get done. Okay, any discussion on the motion to raise the postage cost to $10 for a butter notification? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, motion passes.
Thank you.
Anything else from any board member for tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
That's right. Doggone it.
I'll second.
You closed the Zoom.
Dude,
you say
you
you
tricked me.
had something you wanted to?
Did you start off saying something? Oh, just the 65-day clock. We were reading
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
I'll take care of that.
Gotcha.
And who made the motion? Phil? And who seconded it?
Me.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, thank you, good night.
All right, good night.
It is
Thanks,
8:45.
GTV.